Are we on?
We're here.
Hey!
And the sun is still somewhat out.
Hey, it looks like it's daylight savings.
It's trying to come to that time of year.
Yeah, hope so.
But hello there, friends. Welcome. Hey, and our guest of honor is here. Alex is here. We are so excited. And we're going to go to Alex in a quick second.
Yes.
Oh my God, Scepter and the Sword. We're so excited to see you all too. We want to just salute to all of you. This is the third week of 2022. We can't believe we're here. Level 16 of Jumanji. So that is a thing. We are here.
We made it here because of our mask.
Yes, and you too can get a Rosé Hour mask. So go ahead, hit our DM, and let us know you want one so we can send one to you because
you got these masks.
Mask up, as the words of Future, mask on.
Yeah.
Mask on.
We need to put the mask on. We
That's
got
right.
Omicron, Marion,
Omicron.
all the folks out here getting people sick. So put your mask on. So
yes, vaccinate. Do what you got to do.
Boosterize yourself.
And if you don't feel like getting vaccinated, do what's right then and wear your mask. Tell people if you're not feeling well. Don't go to parties. Do not do the most. Treat yourself. And don't cheat yourself. Be kind. Rewind. Don't spread. Don't spread.
And wear your mask.
Wear your mask.
What I find is crazy, right? Like when I was in Japan and overseas, like when people were sick, they would just wear masks. That's what they did. So seeing people here in the States, having such an opposition to wearing masks is just crazy.
Yeah.
But do it is for your safety, for our safety, so you don't spread this disease around and we can end this pandemic a little bit more quickly.
Yeah, because we want to go back outside. I don't want to have to carry a vaccination card. It's worse enough I got to find my passport. I don't even know where that is. So
you ain't going nowhere without that passport.
Right. So now I got to find my passport. Now I got to find my vaccination card. Y'all, let's just do what we got to do. But we're excited because we have Alex here from one of the most amazing distilleries here in the district. And really excited about it because he is a master distiller. He is like baby Jesus in a manger, mind-blowing, killing the game, has so many amazing types of spirits that we're going to talk through today. So really excited about that. Super, super, super excited. So I don't know, you ready to hop in? Oh, we got one more amazing thing. So today we're drinking some rosé as well, and we're going to be tasting some of the district-made spirits, but we also are sipping some rosé from That Girl. I was told you're supposed to go like this these days. That Girl Rosé. So over it, a rosé that gets to the point.
Let me get it close up.
Yes, and we gotta be careful of the fire.
Yeah, I know. Aim with flame. Here we go.
Yes.
That Girl.
That Girl
You
wine.
know what I'm about to put on blast? Alcohol content. 12.7%. Pretty good. I like it.
Yes. Delicioso.
Yes.
And then we have our own cork from the Rosé Hour. So super excited about that. So you can cork it up with the logo.
Yes.
Support the brand.
Hey.
Hey, Jenny! Hey, the Atlanta connection is here. Love it. Well, we're going to go to our guest today, Alex, because I'm so excited, y'all. We even got this adorable box from them. So while Ben is connecting to Alex, I'm going to show you this amazing box. It came from them, and it has their spirits. And so we about to chat it up with them. Uh-oh, here we go. Hey!
Hello.
Man,
How are ya?
And I'm digging those glasses, man.
Oh, thank you. So I'm at the bar at the distillery.
He's at the distillery in DC.
Yeah.
You sure you're not in the
Yeah.
Matrix? That look cool.
Yeah, I did put some nice lights on our stills there. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of beat us in the lighting game right now. Kind of a little light, man.
We thought we were doing it with the fire.
Yeah, I know. We added fire today.
Fire's nice.
You brought the Matrix lights and killed the game. So.
I brought a little rosé too. We could talk about spirits, but this is one of my favorites. I don't know if you guys know Graham Beck out of South Africa. They do some nice sparkling wines, and their Brut Rosé is one of my favorites. But
yes, well, yes, toast it up. You gotta pop the cork. Yes.
yeah, well, if there was more people here, yeah, otherwise I'm in trouble. I got to go back to work after.
Well,
But I'll sip on some spirits.
yeah, well, there's that too. And okay, wait, like my mind is like already blown because this amazing like kit here that you gave us. Oh my God, like it's falling over because it must have gone in my cup already. Like you guys made this.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, this is crazy. Like, but before we even get into this, we gotta talk about you, who you are, like, cause how did you even get into the game? Like, Alex,
Sure.
Tell Alex, who are you? How did you even get here? How did you get into the game, Alex?
Yeah. So, you know, I always enjoyed drinking and drinking some great, you know, probably when I first met my partner in the business, Sandy Wood, as freshmen in college, we were definitely drinking on the lower end of the spectrum. Nothing good there, but occasionally we had some gems. And then after college, I pursued a career in biotech. So I worked in labs out in the San Francisco Bay Area and up in New York and more recently in Rockville, Maryland. You know, moving to San Francisco, I got really into wine and wine country. And there was also, you know, the early days of craft brewing. Sierra Nevada and Anchor Steam had been around. But it was really the wines that got me interested. Losing my pod here. There we go.
Oh, no.
But yeah, so I really enjoyed these the wines and some of the early craft spirits as well. And you know, in my time working in the labs, it was great experience for getting into distilling. But the other side of the brain, it was living in California and enjoying the California cuisine and the respect for the ingredient and the idea of terroir, both in wine and in the food, that where these things were grown, where it was living, where was going to impact the flavor. And the whole idea of respecting the ingredient in cooking. So my spare time, a lot of it was spent shopping at farmers markets, eating out when I could, but you know, I wouldn't think twice about shopping after work and spending 2-3 hours cooking a dinner and just really you know, enjoying that. So it was both of those things coming together for me that I think prepared me to be a distiller. Just the respect for the ingredient, letting them shine through, first on the plate when I cooked, but now in the bottle. And yeah, approaching things scientifically really is helpful when distilling. So those things came together, and Sandy approached me back in 2013 with the idea of starting the distillery. And it took us a little while to get going, but we just celebrated our 7th anniversary, opened here in Northeast, here in Ivy City.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, you have this amazing degree. You're killing the game. You're solving the world's problems. But there's a bigger problem. Amazing tasting liquor and spirits. And it's an endless problem. And now here you are trying to solve it. How did you come up with these solutions? Like one, like, how did you, like, say, I'm going to do a whiskey, a bourbon, a gin, a vodka? Like, how did you even get into, like, I know how to make a vodka. Let me go into, let me write this recipe down.
Sure, yeah.
Great question.
Yeah, we definitely had the fortune to work with some other great distillers to train ourselves up. First and foremost was the guys at Smooth Ambler in West Virginia. They're very much focused on whiskey, mostly just their bourbon. But back in the day when we were starting, they were making a range of spirits as well. They were making vodka and gin from grain, and that was really inspirational for us. You know, a lot of folks go into distilling whiskey, but they need to do something in the short term to keep the lights on, and that's, you know, why a lot of people will make vodka and gin. But for us, we always wanted those to be as important to our line of spirits as the whiskeys. So we make them with the same grains that we make our rye and our bourbon. We're using heirloom grain from local farms for all of the lineup. So yeah, I was training with great folks at Smooth Ambler. Also, I did take some coursework with it's called the Siebel Institute. It's originally out of Germany. It was focused mostly on brewing. They have a Chicago branch, and they started teaching distilling courses as well. So I went to Chicago. I trained up with some great folks, including an amazing influential person, Dave Pickrell, who passed a few years back. But he's kind of known as the Johnny Appleseed of craft distilling. And he came from Maker's Mark, and then went on to open quite a few distilleries, some great folks, and really helped them on their way. I spent a few days with him during this class. It was great to just scratch the surface with him, but it was really inspirational working with him. But then when it came time to creating the recipes, what we call the mash bills for our spirits, that's where we really wanted to do something different. I could make spirits just like, the big boys do, but that's not what I'm about. I'm about distilling here in DC. I'm about the spirit of DC, and we're the center of the Mid-Atlantic. And there's a lot of great farms in our region, and it was good to, really important for us to get to know those farms, work with the farmers, have them plant the varietals that we want to work with. So that's really what creative stamps that we put on, at least initially, was what were the mash bills, where is the grain grown, and what are we going to do? So, for all of our spirits, we're about the heart of rye. Rye is a great grain. It's the original, rye whiskey is the original American whiskey, predating bourbon. But rye was also one of the original grains used in vodka, going back, really almost 1,000 years. You can go back to parts of Eastern Europe, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, Poland. I'm not going to touch that argument, but that from that part of the world, we think often we think of potatoes or corn when we think of vodka, but really, vodka was made for centuries in Europe before potatoes and corn came from the New World back to Europe. So they were using grains like rye. So that was really inspirational for us to make a vodka from grain and from rye.
I did not know that. I always thought it was potatoes. So
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Again, you are blowing my mind, which was to be expected. I know you got questions, but I got to get this out. Okay. So how did you guys started with a vodka, right?
Yeah, our first spirits that we distilled ourselves were our vodka. And back in the day, we released an unaged rye whiskey. We called it, back then it was Rock Creek White Whiskey, and it was an unaged rye. It was a lot of fun. It won us some great awards, but ultimately it's not a spirit that a lot of us gravitate to, so it was never a huge seller. It made some great cocktails. It's kind of fun in place of rum and a daiquiri, things like that. I loved just sipping on it neat, but really it was a great cocktail ingredient. So yeah, those were our first spirits. Our gin came probably about 6-7 months later. It took us a while to develop that botanical blend for the gin. But yeah, and then we were always putting down filling barrels of our bourbon and rye, and those were released when they were ready. So a couple of years in, we had our rye, and then a year later, we had our bourbon.
Wow, that's crazy, because you say your bourbon was like a rum, and I am a rum connoisseur. I love rum.
A lot. He likes it a lot.
I love a rum. Okay, so it's Rosé, rum. I don't know, because my name is Renee. Starts with an R. Things that start with R. I don't know.
Right.
But,
we'll add rye to the mix after tonight.
Listen, I'm just saying, if you guys bring it back, I don't know. I will be here for maybe a rum rantastic night if you guys wanted to try, making those cocktails again. I'm here for it. So.
Get a full
Yeah.
month.
I'm here for it.
It may come back. Who knows?
Exactly. I mean, I feel like we're all trying to go back to like more pleasant times anyway. So like maybe it's like let's go back to 2020. No, let's go back to 2010 or something like that.
It was like 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah, more pleasant times.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
okay, so I want to talk really quickly about some of this amazing drinks that you sent us, because like you also sent us this card that has some amazing information on it, and like district made. You guys are district made. You're here in Washington D.C. and like
Yep.
I think people don't understand like D.C. has its own culture, and like with D.C. culture, with the wine and spirits industry, it's not huge, but it is starting to become like a challenger. Like you have entered the chat,
Yes.
like people say, when it comes to competition and competitors across the country. And so, like, how is that like being such a like a new place in the country region wise with historical places like a Tennessee or a Napa Valley as it comes to the wine and spirits industry?
That's a hell of a question.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think hard. I'm smart. I read.
Yeah, we can tell.
Yeah. No, I mean, DC was definitely, as far as in comparison to other places I've been, compared to the San Francisco Bay Area, compared to New York State, I think a little bit behind as far as the craft movement in beer, wine, spirits, and other things as well. But the explosion that we've been lucky and fortunate to be a part of in craft is just amazing. I mean, we were the second distillery to open in DC, and now there's several of us. And I love what we do here, but I also love when we have the opportunity to collaborate with another local craft maker. And it's just exciting to be a part of this community, whether it's spirits, whether it's all the great craft brewers in DC, and now we have winemakers. We have City Winery in our neighborhood in Ivy City. There's great stuff happening all around the region, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of that. We love our easiest avenue for collaboration as a spirits producer is to work with barrels. So to bring in barrels from a great winery, for example, we just emptied a couple barrels going into our next Untitled Whiskey blend that originally aged Bordeaux-style blend from RDV, winery in Virginia. Really amazing winery, and their barrels are just gorgeous. So we had actually finished a whiskey in those barrels, and that's going to be a part of our next blend. So we're really excited about that. We also will get our barrels then to other makers. So a fun collaboration we do called Untitled Whiskey 12. We empty a bourbon barrel, bring it over to a local chocolate maker, Harper McCaw, makes amazing chocolates. And they will...
know that. Yes, I know them.
Yeah, they are awesome. They make some great stuff. And they will take the empty bourbon barrel, fill it full of cocoa nibs, the raw cocoa nibs, and they will age them in that barrel for about a year. They take them out to make the chocolate bars. Then we get the empty barrel back. We refill it with the bourbon for almost 2 years, or maybe it was slightly over 2 years. So you have a lovely chocolate finish on a bourbon. So
I knew there was something special going on. Like, he just told us the secret sauce.
Yeah, so, to your question about the craft movement, DC's on the map now, and it's been a real fun to be a part of it, and I love the energy to collaborate with others and just to be a part of that scene, whether it's coffee roasters, chocolate makers, distillers, brewers, winemakers. Yeah, it's all happening here, and you don't have to go very far to find something excellent being produced here. And yeah, we will hopefully then compete on national or even international level. We definitely want to get our spirits out. Our distribution footprint is not huge yet, but you can find some of our spirits for sale in Illinois and Missouri, Colorado.
Well, and I'm
So.
Illinois girl, so I'm here for it. Because when I go home to
Right.
visit family, I'm like, have y'all seen District Made? Because it's made in the district. It's reporting. No taxation without representation. However, comma,
Yes.
District Made.
Yep.
Yeah, right here.
Exactly. Right.
There it is. There it is.
Oh my God! Go ahead and show people the actual bourbon bottle because we saw this at Costco.
Yes.
Like it's sold at Costco, y'all. Like
Yeah.
Look, here it is. Hold on, let me back it up. Let me back it up.
yes.
Put it on both our screens there.
The bottling is so beautiful.
Like
if you
got into a fight, you can definitely hit somebody over the head with it.
It's a heavy bottle.
It is heavy.
Yeah.
You can definitely defend yourself with that.
But it's so beautiful. And it reminds me of DC because of sort of like the angles. And you know how like DC is sort of like cut crazy.
Stop signs in DC.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that whole Virginia situation.
Octagon.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, 8 sides for the 8 wards. We are also, kind of like the column effect. Yeah, there's a lot of things in there. We've got on the side of the bottle the 3 stars from the DC flag. Hard to see. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
The 8 wards. I did not.
So that's what the 8 is in the logo.
Well, the 1-8 is actually a constitutional reference. So my partner Sandy is an attorney. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, calls for the formation of the National Capital District. Many other provisions in there as well, but that's where 1-8 comes from. Article 1, Section 8. So, but really, we are district made. We're all about, our spirits here, the spirit of DC.
I was holding up to that.
Yeah. So when y'all see that, you understand what it is. It's a 1-8.
That's the 1-8. Right there,
which gives DC its authorization to be what it is, to be DC.
Yep.
But we need states' rights now, so that's a whole other situation.
Right. We're paying state tax, and it sucks.
Yes. And people like Alex and his amazing partner Sandy are doing great work, and they deserve to have the same rights as everybody else in other states as business owners. So, boom, boom. Sorry, had to do that.
Oh, I appreciate it.
We're not a district, we should be a state. Okay. And we're back.
Yes.
That was like a commercial break.
It was.
No, but like that's cool to see the 8 sides, the stars, like wow, y'all thought of everything with the bottom.
Symbolization.
Yeah.
Yes.
Symbolism.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what part we're here for now.
You gotta drink this.
Oh yeah.
So, how do we want to do this? Do we want to go in order of light to dark?
Yeah, I think, we should start with the vodka. That's a
so
good place to start.
Okay, guys. And like, this is so cute. Can people actually purchase these too?
No, we don't have that approved for sale.
This is like the cutest idea ever.
Yeah. So, the pandemic has been awful for a lot of reasons. One of the small, silver linings of this cloud has been what we're doing here. We're on Instagram Live. We're, getting it out there, and we've done quite a lot of these virtual tour type things and tastings. And so putting our spirits in these bottles in kits to get out to people for a virtual tasting has been a little glimmer of light in this pandemic. So that's been great, and maybe down the road we'll get that into full production.
I'm just saying, I'm one of those people who almost got kicked off of a flight. He can attest to this. I didn't know it was illegal, which I'm a lawyer as well by trade. Didn't know, and I still didn't actually look it up, but I need to now that we bring this up. You can't actually take these on airplanes, even though they're technically for airplanes. Like, I didn't know that.
You can't drink them on the plane.
Right.
You can have them. You can't just drink them, just open them, and just do shots like we were doing right in front of the flight stewardess and all the people's face. You can't do that.
I didn't do it in anybody's face.
I did it. I did it.
I poured it in my drink.
I just took the shot just like this.
Anywho, so
You can't do either one of those.
So this is the vodka, and we'd love to know more. But it's so cute. Do you want to show people how cute this is?
Yeah.
It's so cute. Do you want to tell people about it? Don't watch the fire.
I know. Yeah, my arm is.
Yeah. So I mean, our vodka, our first spirit. It's the first vodka distilled in DC that we're aware of from grain. And still, now there was another distillery open for a little while, made some, but otherwise we're still the only ones distilling from grain. Most vodka, even from craft distillers, what they'll do is they'll bring in neutral grain spirit, and then they can redistill it, or they would just put it in the bottle. For us, though, we wanted to put the same effort that we are. In fact, in those stills behind me right now, I've got the next batch of vodka coming off. It's going to be a late ride with that still today. Takes a while. It's a labor of love. But anyway, yeah, so our vodka is mostly rye in the mash bill. And then we use a little bit of corn and some malted rye. We'll distill it once, get it up to about 155 proof. And then we distill it again because legally to make vodka, it has to come off your still in the United States at greater than 190 proof. So what's coming off that still behind me right now, the last I checked, it was about 191 proof.
I have a billion questions. I'm sorry.
Yep.
He said, wait, we can't even go on.
Yeah, we can't continue. So
Sips wine in the intro.
Sips wine. I'll probably take a shot of your stuff here. When you say distilled, what does that mean?
Sure.
Us laymen.
To us mere mortals.
Right. What does that mean? Like, we see you just
sure.
And then you did something else. You went back into the Matrix and you did something. So,
right, Neil, please tell us.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Please tell us.
What is distilled? Like, what does distill mean?
Sure. So it's a chemical process where you're separating different components of a solution to concentrate one of those components. In our case, we want to separate the alcohol, the ethanol, from water. So when we make our spirits, we're all grain-based. The first thing we make is basically a beer, a Distillers Beer. Most beer is going to be made just from malt, but we're making it from, other grains as well. So the first step, we'll mill our grain, we'll cook it, we'll break down the starch into sugar. And the way we do, the reason we do that is the yeast will consume the sugars, but they can't consume the starch. So we'll add our yeast in the fermenter, ferment for between 3 and 4 days, and convert about 90% of the sugar into alcohol. So depending on our different beer, different mashes, we end up with a distiller's beer that's roughly 8 to 12% alcohol. So that's a good place for us to start. But then we have to distill it. So the distilling, how we separate them is we'll heat it up gradually. And ethanol has a boiling point at about 172 degrees, 174 degrees Fahrenheit. Water boils at 212. So if we heat it up and keep it above the boiling point of ethanol, but below the boiling point of water, mostly ethanol vapor will come up. That'll come up, and in our still, it depends exactly how the still works, but basically we want to concentrate that, and then we hit the point where we call the condenser, where we're running basically cool water, and that will condense that ethanol vapor back to a liquid form, and that's what we'll collect. So that's distilling in a nutshell. We don't need these big fancy stills behind me. You can do it very simply. An old style still, it's called an alembic still, developed way back when, over 1,500 plus years ago, comes from the Middle East, that part of the world, and they were actually distilling first for perfume. They wanted to concentrate the essences of different, flowers, rose, whatever, and make perfumes. Pretty soon they figured out you put some wine in there, some beer or mead or whatever, you can make some stronger stuff.
You make some a little tasty.
Yes, indeed.
You should go on Jeopardy. You should go on Jeopardy. I'm pretty sure you'll win. The next question. Okay, distilled. All right. When you first major.
He's like, I'm taking my shot.
Yeah, I know. Well,
That's a little super. Cheers, cheers.
Put the vodka real
Hey,
quick.
we're going down the line. Oh my God, it's smooth. It's like
I don't have that like. Effect.
I know I was waiting for the. You normally take shots of vodka. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, there's no burn. There's a nice natural sweetness
Yes.
in our vodka. It's from that corn, from that malted rye. Really lovely flavor.
No, like.
But it is. Oh, sorry.
No,
it's a vodka.
I feel like I literally am like, oh.
Normally when she does shots, she's so out of sorts. Her face is completely just, in disarray.
I'm an emoji like.
Yeah. So this is
good. Oh my God.
And
Thank you.
You made this.
We make that here, yes.
You
Yep.
did this. Look,
We have a great team. I can't take all the credit, but yes.
I need to pour myself another shot.
So when you made your first bottle of whiskey or spirit, what did you do it in? Were you in your dorm room, with some buddies? No. How did you do it?
Yeah, I never did any home distilling. First of all, that's illegal. I can't recommend distilling at home. You can, if you're distilling for fuel, you can distill fuel ethanol at home to put in your gas tank or whatever. But
how do you do that? But not right now.
Yeah. But yeah, I had never distilled a drop until I started training and started the distillery. So it was definitely learning on the job, and maybe a couple batches were not kept in the beginning, but really we love the progression we've made, and the quality of the spirits that we're making. They're truly have the heart of rye. It's really what we're all about, and made right here from grain grown within 100 miles of the distillery, from farms in Maryland and Virginia.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Okay, so
what you got next?
We never made it finish through the vodka story, but it's good.
Thank you. Yeah.
So let's go on to now. I got some words about gin. I'm very nervous about gin. I think a lot of people are, right?
Everyone is nervous about gin.
I got stories about gin where I'm I woke up
and they're not good.
I don't remember what's in
it.
Yeah. But I feel like this gin will not cause me sin. And it's free. So yeah. You want to show people the little baby gin bottle. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, he got the real.
So there's the Ivy City gin.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna put my little one away so it's bigger. There you go.
Okay,
yeah.
So talk about this gin.
Sure. I mean,
it don't make you sin.
Right. The gin is in some ways the original flavored vodka, right? The origin of gin is actually Genever, Dutch or Belgian, Genever, which was distilling a malt whiskey with juniper and other botanicals. When it got over to the British Isles, then they started using a more neutral base. So basically, we start with our vodka, and then we'll redistill it with the botanicals. So our botanicals, of course, they have to include juniper. That's the defining of gin. But then you can sort of play, and the diversity in gin these days is just wild, and it's craft gin from all over the world, really. I mean, there's so many great gins. A lot of us grew up drinking, well, not maybe grew up, but started with gin with London Dry, right? Your classic London Dry gins, and they can be a little off-putting. It can be a lot of juniper. Some people even say it's like chewing on a Christmas tree or something. It can be really overwhelming. But now, you can use so many different botanicals in gins. And when we were deciding what to do with our gin, we really wanted to complement that base flavor that you had in the vodka that you taste, that rye flavor with a little sweetness from the corn. But really the spice of rye is really what we're all about. And so we chose other spices to complement that base. So in addition to the juniper, we use our signature is called Appellation Allspice. And it grows all over the eastern U.S. We have ours grown these days at one of the farms in Chestertown, Maryland, out on the Eastern Shore. It's where we get a lot of our wheat and corn from. And they also started, when we first started working with them 7 years ago, they asked if there's anything else we would love them to grow. And I said, yes, can you grow these Appellation Allspice berries for us? And so they started, I think, 6 years ago, and we got our first harvest last year, in 2020, and now in 2021 we got a new harvest. And it's great to have that grown locally for us. So yeah, these berries are just super flavorful. They were originally used by Native Americans for a lot of their seasoning, and then the colonists started calling it Appellation Allspice because they couldn't get the spices they were used to, the regular, allspice, so they call it Appellation. So yeah, that's really plays really heavy in this gin. And then other spices, fennel, grains of paradise. We use lemon peel, lemongrass, and then some great roots like orris root, angelica root, licorice root. And so those are all ground up and then hung in a basket in our small gin still. So, and I can show you, I don't know if it's going to come through on the screen, but that's that Appellation Allspice berries. You can see the berries here.
Oh yeah, no, you can see it.
Yeah. So those are really what flavors a lot in this gin. And so it's not your London dry style. This category of gin we call American dry, but it really can go in so many different directions. We have great gins being made, all over the area now, and definitely it's fun to check them out and try them in different cocktails.
This smells so amazing. Like I went cross-eyed. I was like, oh, wow. Cheers.
Cheers.
You did gin right.
Thank you.
My breath is so fresh. I feel like not that you ever wanted, we do not condone drinking and driving. Never.
No.
However, this is like spearmint gum. Like, I feel like your breath is fresh. Like, like sometimes when you're drinking, your breath is like a little tart.
Yeah.
This is a very fresh breath. Like,
yeah.
What is the...
It reminds me of like Rumpelmints. Have you ever had Rumpelmints?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that.
Okay, it's
right.
Appellation Allspice.
Allspice, yeah.
That's what this...
Yeah. There's a lot of that. Yeah.
And gin.
So this is one gin I do stamp because I normally just hate gin.
I think Tanqueray messed it up for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, Tanqueray and a lot of London Dry, you would never think about sipping on it, like we just did here. When we first released it, it was reviewed by Fritz Hahn at the Post, and he said this is his new sipping gin. And I'd never thought about sipping on a gin, but really, a gin like this that has the nice body from the base spirit, from that rye forward spirit, but the botanicals aren't overpowering. It's nice sipping on its own. And then really, I mean, most of the time we do cocktail with it. It makes lovely gin tonics. I love to do a martini with it. Derek Brown is an amazing mixologist with the Columbia Room and other places he's worked with in the past. And he's trained lots of bartenders around. And a lot of them will do a 2-to-1 martini. And I love that. 2 parts gin, 1 part vermouth. In this case, what I learned from him was a Dolon Blanc is a vermouth I like to use. And then, if you are doing maybe not dryuary, but if you're looking to, decrease your intake for the month or whatever you need to do, then you can always flip it. And if you're using a good vermouth and you're keeping the vermouth in your fridge and it's fresh, go 2 parts vermouth and 1 part gin. And, it's not going to be as strong. You're still going to enjoy a great cocktail.
It's gin and juice, but taken down a notch. I like it,
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg would approve.
Yeah.
Yes, this does work with some juice.
Screwdrivers.
Screwdrivers, yeah.
Screwdrivers vodka, Gin and juice.
Right.
Yeah.
Gin and juice.
That can go well with this.
I actually don't think y'all even need juice. Like,
yeah, you definitely could sip it, but you know, if you wanted to mix it with gin and juice, I can see this going.
I mean, you got your money on your mind and your mind on your money. I mean, the whole song comes through on this, you know? Like,
brother, you're batting 1,000.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
There's a reason he's in
Thank you.
Yeah,
we took a long time to work on this gin, and we're really proud of it. And it's our second biggest seller at the distillery.
Because you know why? Nobody's sitting. There's no sit going on with this gin. Everybody's like, I'm living my life like it's golden.
So I have a question. So when you're making, you know, whiskey or a spirit, is it like Breaking Bad, where you just like, you know, you got some like vials, you know, you're in this room and you're I don't know, doing chemist stuff. I don't know. I didn't do well in chemistry. But I'm just asking, you know, is it like that? Like, what is it like when
You
you're
sound like
Sure.
with this apron on, like,
yeah, you know,
Yeah.
goggles, like, is it like that? Like, what is it?
I mean,
like?
I'm distilling today. This is me. You know, I don't have any. I have my safety boots on. That's about it because we move a lot of heavy things. But otherwise, you know, we do use some key tools to check on the progress of our fermentation. We check the sugar content, and then of course check the alcohol content of our spirits. And then, you know, if we need to do further analysis, which we do, we don't have the tools here, so I send samples out to a lab. I don't do that myself, but yeah. Otherwise, it's, you know, it's a lot of our most important tools as distillers are our sense of smell and taste. So it's, you know, those are the key things, you know, really as far as our quality control and just how I'm going to end my distilling run tonight on this vodka run is going to be by flavor. You know, when it's not tasting as clean as the vodka we just tasted, then that's it. My run is done, and I'll shut it down. I won't collect those tails and redistill it and use them for anything else. The tails are what we call the end of the run. Right now we're on the heads, the hearts of the run. And that's the part that I want for my vodka, and that's it. So it's all about the sense of smell and the sense of taste.
Can you go into what you just said, like the with the heart and the tail?
Yeah.
What does all that mean? Like,
Sure. Yeah. So on a pot still run, you know, I talked about distilling earlier. You're heating that up. The vapor comes off. It hits the condenser and comes off the still. When we're first warming up the still, there are some other things. Those yeast are most critical employees. They're the ones making alcohol out of the sugar. There's no other way to do it. So, but they do get a little confused. They're not perfect. So once in a while they will make.
They're employees, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, what can you do? No, they the chemical pathway will go awry, and instead of making ethanol, they may make methanol, which is wood alcohol, or they might make isopropanol, which is rubbing alcohol, you know. And we don't want those in our spirits. You know, there is going to be a small amount of that in beer and wine. But it's small. But when we're distilling, we're concentrating everything at least tenfold, and we really don't want those. So thankfully for us, they will they have lower boiling points than ethanol, so they'll come off the still first, and that's what we call the heads of the run. So we'll smell those coming off the still first, and we're not going to reuse that. That's just going to be waste product for us. And then once we can't smell it anymore, then we'll taste it. So I'll just run my fingers through what's coming off the still, touch it on my tongue. If I can't taste it anymore, great. We're out of heads. We're into the hearts of the run. Yes, and the hearts is the cleanest part of the run. It's going to have the cleanest flavor, the highest proof. And for making vodka, for distilling vodka, that's all I'm going to take today. When I distill whiskey, we will go a little bit into the next part of the run, and that's the tails of the run. And the proof has come down at this point. We have to put more energy on the still, more heat, so we're approaching the boiling point of water, so that'll bring the proof down. But there are some other compounds that the yeast make. The yeast make these very flavorful compounds. We call them esters. And when we distill them, they're called, coming off the still, fusel oils. They're a little oily. You can actually see a little bit of sheen on the surface of the tank. But they have really strong flavor. Sometimes we associate them with fruit or floral flavors. And for a whiskey, I do want some of those to go into the barrel because they'll change over time chemically on the charred inside of the barrel. So we want some of that because that will develop into really traditional whiskey flavors. So we do go a little bit into the tails of the run. But again, it's a subjective thing. We make those cuts just by sense of taste. So.
And speaking of whiskey.
Yes.
Let me see that.
We're into the whiskey now.
So I have a question. All right.
Yes.
So we have bourbon whiskey and then we have whiskey. So what is the difference between the two?
Right. Bourbon, bourbon and rye and single malt, they're all whiskeys. Bourbon and rye, they all have their particular, rules associated with them. First and foremost, what it's made from. So bourbon, I'm losing my piece again here. Bourbon has to be at least 50% corn in the mash bill, and rye has to be at least 50% rye. Bourbon can only be made in the United States, whereas a lot of rye whiskey is made in Canada. That's where a lot of rye is coming from. Although rye is coming back in the States. We're seeing a lot more rye producers like ourselves, and Sagamore up in Baltimore, or Catoctin Creek out in Virginia. A lot of great rye being made locally again, which is great. Other laws about them, they both have to come off the still at less than 160 proof, so less than 80%. Our bourbon and rye will generally come off the still at about 150 proof, thereabouts. And then we add water because they have to go into the barrel at less than 125 proof. We generally go into the barrel at about 115. The barrel has to be a new charred oak cask. So we can only use these barrels one time to make bourbon or rye. We can use them again for other things, but yeah.
For the bourbon, only one.
So is that like a scientific rule, if you will, or is it like a legal rule?
Those are federal laws, really defining the spirits. It really makes, American whiskey, bourbon and rye, so different from, Scotch or Irish whiskey because of that use of that new charred barrel. So much of the flavor, there's flavor coming in at every step from the grains that you choose and the terroir, where those grains were grown, and how you mash and how you ferment and how you distill, and the yeast strain that you use. All of these are going to impact flavor, but so much will also come in the aged spirits, in the aged whiskeys from the barrel, from the oak. Yeah, so and that's really defining. In Scotland or in Ireland, they're not going to use new oak. They're going to use usually ex-bourbon barrels. Most of the bourbon barrels, from Kentucky, from Tennessee whiskey, etc., will ship across the world to age other spirits. A lot of Scotch, a lot of, again, Irish whiskey, but also a lot of rum down in the Caribbean, or a lot of Reposado and Añejo tequilas in Mexico, usually using ex-bourbon barrels.
Makes sense. I knew there was a secret sauce. I told you.
Yep.
I knew it. Okay, so let's do the bourbon whiskey.
All right.
The rye whiskey. Let's do the rye.
Rye next.
No,
Okay.
No. I'm sorry. I poured the bourbon whiskey already. So that's
Cool.
What's in our cup now is the bourbon whiskey. So what's in that?
So we have a pretty interesting process. There's so much great bourbon coming out of Kentucky and elsewhere that, I wasn't going to do something traditionally, so I wanted to mix it up. So we actually make two completely different bourbons, and then we blend them together after aging. So when we talk about bourbon, we often talk about the other grain that goes in with the corn. First of all, I should take a quick step back, talk about corn. Going back in the history of bourbon, a lot of bourbon was distilled using heirloom corns that were grown for food primarily. It was grown for hominy, for grits, and if they had a good year, they had surplus, they were going to make some bourbon. Now, most bourbon is being made using a pretty generic corn. It's called Yellow Dent Number 2. Not very exciting, but we wanted to go back. Yeah, we wanted to go back in history. So we worked with a farm, starting with Land's End Farm again in Chestertown, but now we have a couple other farms growing it for us to develop this. Well, it's not developing it, but it's to plant again an heirloom corn called Hickory King. And it was developed in the 1880s in Virginia. And it's a great corn. We just love it. The first time we distilled it, tasting it off the still, we knew it was our bourbon corn. So it's a larger kernel. It's very mild in flavor coming off the still, but it had a lovely creaminess that we really were attracted to when we first distilled it. So that's the corn we use. Then we distill a high rye corn, and that one, or high rye bourbon, that's with rye and malted rye in the mash bill. And separately, we distill a wheated bourbon with wheat and malted barley. And then we age them separately, and then we select a few casks. And our average batch size would be considered very small batch. It's only 6 barrels usually. We'll empty 6 barrels, blend them together, choose the ones we want to go together, and then blend them. And we'll proof this down to 95 proof. So it's still got enough, holds its own in a cocktail if you so desire, or if you like to drink it on the rocks or with a splash of water. So it becomes a 4-grain bourbon. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. I'm just saying, around the tour here is amazing.
Mm. It reminds me of Jameson.
Yeah.
It's smooth.
Mm-hmm.
It's smooth. I don't have any bite after it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is good for me because I hate to make afterwards when I take a
Hey, do that one
drink.
more time.
Because I happen to do that a lot. I like a good spirit, but I hate when I have to make a face.
Right.
After
Right.
get it down. I don't
And sometimes, sometimes that's just the alcohol burn. It's strong. There's no getting around it. Spirits are strong, and that's why.
Be I'm a lady. I want to enjoy. But I don't want to be ooh, and let everybody know that that hurt me.
Right.
And everybody else is I can take it.
3 spirit scenes still batting 1,000, bro.
I know. This is amazing.
Yes.
It's really, really good. And I'm glad that at Costco we ran into it because looks like that's what we're going to be doing for our bourbon. So this our new house bourbon. So.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, it really is the best deal around. I wish Costco had all our spirits, but they have the bourbon, and yeah, if you're looking for a bourbon, that's the best deal.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I love it.
Yeah.
And again, packaging, amazing. Now we have one last spirit to do.
Yes.
Rye whiskey.
Mm.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. So
It
again.
got music. I don't know. That goes to show you the liquor is kicking.
It is. I feel it.
The liquor is kicking in. So, do you guys actually do tastings at the distillery for people like this? Because I'm woo! I can imagine what people are going through when they come.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We haven't resumed doing public tours and tastings, but we have started doing private ones again. So get a group of friends together. It's a great way to do it. Your tour guide's going to be myself or the other distiller, Stephen, or rarely somebody else. So you really get this experience, but in person. So we'll do a tour, and we'll sit over here behind me and taste through the lineup of spirits. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Your tour.
We're going to do the tour. We're going to find amazing friends from the podcast because we see people coming in. We see people going. We understand 5:30, it's DC, traffic. People are, looking in while they're driving home. As you see, people are driving. So we're here for it. So, Alex, we're going to come. And we're going to do a live from there
Definitely.
too, because this is going to be a good time. Because literally, we're at home and we're like, woo! Can only imagine when we take an Uber there to take it back home.
Right.
Yes. Take an Uber, definitely.
Uber is
we'll see how you do it.
Okay, so now this is rye.
Yeah. So yeah, again, we're all about the rye. We love the history of rye, the original American whiskey. The earliest days of the country, the biggest rye producer was George Washington. He was convinced by a couple of his farm hands from Scotland that he was already growing grain. He was already milling it and selling flour back to Europe. But they convinced him that he could make a lot more money if he distilled it. So he started a distillery. It quickly became the largest producer of rye whiskey and brandy in the country. The late 18th century there. Unfortunately, after Washington passed, there was an accident. They were distilling on open flames. We use steam and electricity back here, a little safer. But
flames right here, right now.
Yeah. So Washington's distillery was lost, but they brought it back not that long ago. Dave Pickerel, who I mentioned earlier, and a couple guys from Scotland rebuilt the distillery, and it's fully functional over at Mount Vernon, so you can go check it out. I don't know COVID and everything, how that is these days, but it's cool. We love that history of rye. There was a lot of different rye being made back then and still is. Basically fell into two styles. One was the Pennsylvania or Monongahela style, and that was mostly rye, a little bit of malted barley in the mash bill. Then when you got down to Maryland, where so much rye was produced, I think there was 35, 40 distilleries in Maryland before Prohibition, all making rye whiskey, a lot of them up in Baltimore. And it's back. There are distilleries doing it again. But the Maryland style adds corn to the mash bill. And so that's the style we make. We do a little bit of corn in the mash bill, but what really sets our rye apart is we use so much more malt than what is commonly done. Most distilleries will use maybe 5, 10, 15% malt. We go to 28% malt. We work with a great malt house in Asheville, North Carolina, called Riverbend Malt, and they do a great malt. So yeah, that's what sets our rye apart. 94 proof, so it's almost as high as the bourbon. But it's, rye is known to be a little spicier, but I think this one is a little smoother. But let's have a taste.
Well, cheers! Here we go.
Cheers.
I feel the kick, but it's not spicy like, oh my God, kick. Because as I'm sipping, I don't have to cough. I'm not like, ooh.
You're doing an amazing job, brother. I just want to say,
thank you.
These spirits are extremely smooth.
And as you notice, his eyes, they were very low before, but they are even lower now.
Yeah, I can't even see you for it. I can only hear your voice.
It means you've done the job, Alex.
You have done an amazing job, brother. And I would like to say, shout out to you, the chemist himself, Breaking Bad 2.
We have a great team here.
Well, you know what
Oh no, I mean,
he's not doing the drug thing. He's doing the
legal
the
thing,
spirit thing,
right?
The legal thing, and he's done it well. All 4 spirits we've had tonight.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
I'm just amazed at the chemistry behind it. Like you were saying, hey, we gotta boil it here, but not here. We gotta do this, but not that. I'm like, man, did you ever just make a batch in your kitchen or something like that?
It's not.
I know, it's like, damn.
Never did, yeah.
And with that, I think what Ben's trying to say is was there an opportunity where you know what, I got so deep into trying to figure it out that I went home, from the distillery and I was just I know I can figure this out. You get into those situations, because I do it I'm at work and I'm I know I can troubleshoot this problem, and you take work home, and it just seems like you're no, I have that separation because legal reasons. And so you're hey, I will figure out tomorrow because I got this bottle that I made last month, and I will figure it out. And that's what it sounds like. That's what you do.
Yeah, I mean, we're a small team. I definitely am not going to take credit for all of these. My right-hand man, Steven, has been a distiller with me since day one. He started as an intern. He was a farmer, actually, and it was winter when we started. And he's like, I got some time. You need an extra set of hands. And we're like, yeah, come on down, join us. I haven't been able to get rid of him since, but really he's been instrumental in all of this. He does so much of the blending, almost all the blending, really, that we do, and that is such a key part of it. The big boys, when they're making a blend of whiskey, they're emptying hundreds, if not thousands of barrels at a time, and you achieve this amazing level of consistency in your flavor profile just by sheer number. If you open a bottle of Jameson's today, it's going to taste the same as one you tried 20 years ago or one you'll try 20 years from now, because of that sheer size. And we do it. Stephen does it when we open 6 barrels. We pick those 6 barrels, and I love that we are striving to be consistent in our flavor profile, but at the same time, we're small and craft, and it's a little bit of an adventure. So come on and taste it. And if you try a bottle today and try a bottle in a couple of years, it might be a little different, and that's all right. It's still going to have that same ingredients, still making them the same way. But the one thing I can't control when we get back to the barrel is that barrel is from wood, from a living tree, and that tree grew different from the other tree over there that they harvested to make those barrels, and that's going to impact the flavor. And it's a fun adventure. I love putting our spirits in the barrel and then going back a couple of years later and tasting and see what's happened and where it is, and keep playing. We tried these 4 spirits today, but I have so many more different things in the back there that you'll have to stay in touch with us and see what we do next.
We can't wait. And you know what? Just for your story, before we end today, those consistent big companies started off small too, and they were doing exactly what you did, right? So like whether it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, they were a small company and their, spirits were not consistent, or they changed profiles or what have you over years, and they became the consistent that they are today. But nobody likes consistency because look at the world we're living in today. And everyone now is looking for something that's consistently inconsistent because we are evolving as people and we're looking for new and something innovative and great and amazing. And that's what you are. And we cannot wait to try all those amazing Dr. Science things in the background that we don't know. So we're here.
Absolutely.
And when can we come?
Right. So, yeah. Well, I mean,
it's amazing. I would just like to be there and just have a drink with you, brother.
Yes.
When can we pull up?
So in the short term, the tasting room is closed just because of everything. Staffing's been tough for us, like everybody. So we are going to reopen next month on Saturdays. So come and see us starting in February on a Saturday from 1 to 7. The folks that we have behind the bar where I'm standing, they make amazing cocktails. It's just, it's a lot of fun. They're not just bartenders at a bar. They are, designing these cocktails around these spirits. And it's just amazing to see what they have. We've had people that have tended bar here now for several years, and it's just, the creativity just blows my mind. I never knew how to make a cocktail before I started this, and I'm still pretty mediocre, to be fair. The most important thing that I learned along the way is using one of these guys and measuring. Measuring how much you put in. Yeah, but otherwise, come and see us on Saturdays, or we can always schedule that private tour, get a group of friends together, reach out to us. Nancy will get it all figured out, and we love doing the private tours and tastings. We also have Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're gonna do both, and we're gonna see you. I don't want us to get timed out with Instagram, so I don't want it to cut off on either of us. So I'm so sorry.
Right. No, no.
Instagram is so finicky. I don't want it to just be like that. So I just want to say we're so thankful because I don't want to time out. I want to just tell you personally, we're so thankful for this opportunity to talk with you. You're amazing. We really appreciate you. You are so smart, so innovative, so creative. And like, you are creating something so amazing that generations are going to be like, hail King Alex, because they're going to be at bars turning up in 2055 because of you. So thank you for all you do. Because we're turning
Thank you.
You put that into a healthy perspective.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're drunk. We're drunk right now.
Yes.
I'm so drunk, I can't taste my rosé.
Yeah. We're definitely there.
Yes. But thank you, Alex. We really appreciate this. We want to thank the team at the distillery. We want to thank everybody at District Made. Elena, I want to shout her out too. She was so amazing for making sure everything happened today. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you 1,000 times over. Everyone at the distillery is so amazing. So everyone, please check them out. If you do not follow them already, please follow. If you're in DC, go ahead and go on Saturday starting in February between 1 and 7. And it sounds like you can also make purchases online. Is that correct too?
Yeah. We're not doing any delivery or shipping, so you still have to come in. You can come in for retail Friday evenings, 3 to 7. Saturday, even this week, we're open 1 to 7 for retail, and 1 to 5 on Sundays. And if you're closer to DuPont, we're at the DuPont Circle Farmers Market every Sunday as well. So
come on,
definitely
go to the farmers market, get you some corn, because we talked about it all night. It sounds like it'll be a good pairing. Corn and some of these amazing spirits. Yeah. Corn on the cob, corn and rice, corn and tacos, and one of these amazing spirits. Let's do it, people. Let's make it happen.
Put it all together.
Well, thank you, Alex. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. And we'll see you probably the first Saturday in February.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Thanks so much. All right. Take care.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight.
All right.